Here we are, the round of 16. Whoa, and looking at Prae.ThorZaIN right there, messing up his SCVs just a little bit, but now got them all to mine. In the bottom left on Xel'Naga Caverns, we have Prae.ThorZaIN as the blue Terran, and in the top right, as the red Protoss, we have Liquid Tyler.
So, I mean, that's not the best foot you want to start off on for any of you who didn't end up catching that. ThorZaIN sent all his workers to the top, and then all of them to the right, and then all of them to the top, and then was like, well, maybe I should split these bad boys up. And then finally did so. So it looks like he ended up getting a touch behind at the initial worker count, but everything seems to be all right at this point. Tyler putting his first pylon down right next to his Nexus. Doesn't want to have that too close to the ramp, as it's very easy to abuse that with any sort of marine marauderage. ThorZaIN likewise planting his supply depot down behind his command center to make sure he has maximum mining time. And already, Chill, I'm liking that he's re-rallying his command center to make sure that those SCVs are pairing up. We already see 4 pairs have been set up, and he's doing a little bit of funky rallying with that SCV. Doing a little poking around scouting. Always love players who take that extra little bit of time to be safe and scout for proxies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, 99% of the time you're not going to find anything, but that 1% of the time where you find something and shut it down, you look like a genius, and it really pays dividends. So I'm always looking for players who scout well and play safe. We can see Tyler sending out his first probe. I always like to throw up the APM tab just at the start to get a sense of what's going on in the players' minds. Are they the kind that kind of start out slowly and then ramp up, or are they the kind that really like to spam, get their fingers going? We can see Tyler sitting at about 240 APM, ThorZaIN a little bit lower, down at 160, now coming out to scout. And while we have a little bit of time ramping up in the beginning, I want to tell everyone to check out teamliquid.net/raffle and take a look and support our sponsor, pokerstrategy.com. Sign up for the raffle if you're not a U.S. citizen, and you can win a trip to Korea to go watch a GOM finals. Check out the Liquid members. Meet up with Rec Rule and Artosis and Tasteless, and you can also, by signing up for that raffle, you also get $50 towards playing poker.
Absolutely. Big thanks to pokerstrategy.com for supporting esports, so that way we can see Tyler versus ThorZaIN play. Oh man, that's so cool. Oh man, like with all the matches going on in the round of 16, it's pretty absurd to see the level of skill from pretty much everyone. I mean, the big theme is the curse of the Koreans, who just seem incapable of advancing far in this tournament, with almost all of them being eliminated first round. Meanwhile, back in the game, we have a first Zealot popping out for Tyler, now getting a Sentry and Warp Gate as he has that second gas up. Most Protosses go for a Stalker early on, but Tyler, known for getting that early Sentry, wants to save up that money as much as possible. We already see a little bit of SCV dancing going on as he's trying to get himself out of the way. We also see ThorZaIN, meanwhile, back home, is getting a factory and a tech lab on his barracks, so likely going to be going for some big tanking action.
Yeah, he's also got his second refinery up, just 1 SCV on it thus far. Probably not a mistake, but I'll be keeping my eyes on that to see if his resources don't line up to where he wants them to be. Now swapping out that tech lab, getting the siege tank, going to drop the mule. Meanwhile, Tyler, as you said, he was chasing that SCV with the Zealot and didn't just right-click on it. He was actively controlling it and got 2 free hits on that SCV as they danced back and forth. The SCV going to pick up a gold mineral and bring that back. Why not? Going to deposit those 7 minerals back home. And Tyler, meanwhile, following up with the robotics and a second gateway. Pretty standard, safe play. Actually getting a 3rd gateway now. So he wants to sit on 1 base, play a little bit defensive, get that observer out before he ventures out into the expansion lands.
I don't know how much I like this by Tyler. I mean, we've seen ThorZaIN do a lot of funky long-term builds, and I mean, going 3 gateway is a little bit unnecessary. I mean, if you really want to play safe, you should open up with like a 2-gate pressure or a 2-gate robo, something where you can either scout directly with an observer fast or scout directly by pushing the front of his base. But as we see, ThorZaIN actually only made 1 tank, lifted it, and is now getting a starport and a command center. So unless Tyler ends up expanding very soon, I'm a little worried about the fact that he's playing so defensively.
Yeah, he's got his observer out, bringing the probe out to drop that Nexus. ThorZaIN is going to get the command center and the orbital up first, meaning he's going to be able to drop the mules and double up that SCV production. However, he will have to float that out once he determines that it's safe, so it's a little bit of a wash. ThorZaIN going to get the benefit of the faster expansion there. With the Tech Lab completing on the starport, I'm interested to see what's going to come out. It is a Raven. ThorZaIN playing very safe here. He's got that bunker up loaded with Marines, and the Observer coming into ThorZaIN's base. He's going to see everything that's going on, the expansion, and that's going to remove any sort of pressure that Tyler was feeling. He's actually warping a Stalker into his main base. Wants to be safe against any sort of drops, and also in case there's a Reaper jumping up there, just wants to defend against that.
There's the Heli making a poke at the natural expansion. ThorZaIN is going to spot that, so that's going to help his decision-making quite a bit. And, ooh, look at this chill. We got a Thor coming out. Very unusual to see this style of play from any Terran player. Look, Raven and Thor. Now, one thing to note, you can one-shot an Observer with a Thor. Though it might not seem like a big deal with no Cloaked Banshees on the map, just picking off those Observers is huge because Protoss needs that robotics facility to make its power units, the Immortals and the Colossus. So if you can kill those off, either they have to do an Observerless game or they have to cut into that time. Either way, what's really cool is that we're seeing a +1 attack out of Tyler from a very fast forge at the expansion. I'm a little surprised that he's doing that instead of getting the armor.
Yeah, I think when he flew that Observer in and saw kind of a 1-1-1 composition in there, I think he may have changed his style. I think if he saw 3 barracks, he definitely would have gone for the armor first. Not really, you know, doing that hard upgrade style where we saw the double forge that comes a little bit later. This is more of a softer upgrade game, and we can see he's getting the robotics bay as well a lot quicker than he does in that double forge play, but still getting the double assimilator at his natural. He's going to need the gas to support both Colossi production and the upgrades. Meanwhile, back in ThorZaIN's base, he's got a single Thor out and a second one almost on the way, now adding a second factory. Very interesting, and nothing coming out of that starport yet. Now a Viking on the way, so really mixing up his composition here with the 3 bunkers. He's going to feel very safe. Tyler also has placed a pylon back behind his dying trees, the vision blockers there, so that he can see any sort of harassment going there. And he's actually got an Observer and a Stalker behind that mineral line, just in case there's a Cloaked Banshee coming in.
It does look like we see that range going down for the Colossus right now, and first Colossus is en route. Tyler doesn't have that many gateway units out right now. Looks like just has around 11. Meanwhile, we see that ThorZaIN is getting that second factory up due to double Hellion production. No Blue Flame has been researched yet at all. It looks like the supply depot going down for ThorZaIN at the backside, again, to do a nice little wall off back there. Generally, you don't see Protosses doing any sort of huge counter aggression, but occasionally Protosses will sneak a late game Dark Templar back there, so ThorZaIN already trying to account for that with the block.
Yeah, I'm a little bit worried for Tyler here. He's getting his second robotics up. You know, he's invested a lot into being safe, but I'm wondering if it's too much. If we look at his main base, he's got an Observer back there and a Stalker. If we look at his natural, Observer, Stalker, and Cannon. Now trying to take the gold base, but ThorZaIN is going to have 3 Thors out. Is he producing more? He's actually got 2 more coming, so it's not going to be any sort of quick push. It's going to be delayed as he's adding a 3rd factory, but I think if ThorZaIN had pushed a little bit quicker before this Colossi production really got ramped up, he would hit a nice timing. But when you sit in the lofty Observer tower, it's really easy to see that. A Hellion, oh! Hellion doing the most damage I've ever seen in the form of 3 force fields worth of energy dropped, and the Hellion actually gets out of there. So very nice. Gold expansion about 50% up, and the Viking is going to fly in, taking some Stalker fire, but going to get full vision of that double robotics. And let's see if ThorZaIN manages to adapt to that and puts a reactor on his starport.
Now, it's kind of funny, you know, that Hellion actually wasted a couple more force fields in the middle of the map a little bit earlier on, so that is the most hero Hellion that has ever been constructed coming home. And we already see that it's at +2 armor almost for ship weapons for ThorZaIN, so that's a little bit unusual, but makes a lot of sense. I mean, the Zealots do 2 hits instead of 1, so that means the armor works twice, so that's definitely going to eat into the ability for Tyler's units to do that much damage. However, there are those Colossi rapidly increasing in count. We have 2 on 4 on the field right now, with number 5 and 6 no doubt coming up very soon. ThorZaIN just threw down a scan, so he does know the gold expansion is there and can get a good sense of the Colossus. Ooh, Tyler walks right into the scan for a moment with those 2 Colossi, so it looks like ThorZaIN is well aware of the unit count of his opponent.
Yeah, I'm wondering if Tyler is actually well aware of what ThorZaIN is up to, because he's really cranking out these Colossi, not switching over to Immortal production, and these Thors are moving forward, and that's pretty scary with their Strike Cannon upgrade about 75% complete. They're going to move out, take out the Destructible Rocks at the gold, and this is a nice composition for ThorZaIN, not finishing the job on the rocks. There we go. Tyler going to move forward and put a little bit of pressure with these Colossi on. The Command Center forced to retreat. But it looks like he's going to manage to float it up, land that, and I'm going to be interested to see, does he go for the planetary, or is he going to change that into an orbital?
I personally would prefer an orbital command almost always, but I mean, I guess you have to stay alive sometimes. It's so fun, though, to be able to launch down like 10 mules on the gold and get the infinity resource income. Either way, this is a pretty intimidating looking push coming up from ThorZaIN, who's moving through the left side of the map now through that thin edge. The Raven does have a full set of energy. Vikings popping out 2 at a time now. Looks like the Hellions advancing forward. Do they have any Blue Flame upgrade? They do, and they completely annihilate a couple probes on that left side. And we're going to see some more nice shots by ThorZaIN with no speed on those Zealots. Those are free pickings for the Hellions.
Yeah, it looks like Tyler... I'm really interested that he's not switching over to Immortals. He's going all Colossi. He's got 2 queued up and 1 Robotics. Got a second one on the way, and he's actually got a 3rd Robotics at his natural, with the Twilight Council now researching Blink, not Charge. Meanwhile, ThorZaIN is actually ahead in food, 176 to 175. He was ahead by about 10 or 15 for a while, continuing to harass at the left side, and looks like Tyler not completely comfortable with taking that out. But when all these Thors start strike cannoning those Colossi, I'm not sure what's going to happen. This is going to be a really interesting battle coming up.
And it looks like they're starting to move on through the left side, trying to get into a good position. There's the Guardian Shield starting to go down, and there the Colossi doing huge amounts of damage from afar. The point defense drones go down, and it looks like the ground army of Tyler is going to be almost completely done. It is Colossi against Thor. And look at those strike cannons, rip them apart. The stun from the strike cannon doing huge damage to Tyler's Colossi. Still do not get why there are not that many Immortals out on the map now getting produced, with a couple more units trying to get worked in from Tyler, but that Thor army from ThorZaIN is still quite intimidating.
Yeah, ridiculously strong. 154 food for ThorZaIN, moving up against Tyler's 124. He's forced to give up his gold expansion, and look at ThorZaIN not getting greedy. He stays focused, does not get tempted by the main base kill. He moves over to the 3rd base, which is up and not even mining. Tyler has not even destroyed the Destructible Rocks, getting access to his 3rd base, so he'll have to sacrifice that. His response is a counterattack to ThorZaIN's 3rd base, which is not a planetary fortress, so he can lift this up and try to float it away, and looks like that's exactly what he's going to do. Bring his entire army back. 170 food for ThorZaIN, 130 for Tyler, and Tyler's forced to go in a full retreat back to his gold base.
You see a Banshee getting produced right now from ThorZaIN, who built a 2nd starport. Little concerned that he only has 3 factories on the map right now, but it doesn't matter as much because he is so far ahead of his opponent. Now getting that planetary fortress at the gold expansion. 4th base landing now for ThorZaIN, also going to be a planetary fortress. Very nice expansion timing for the Terran player. We're seeing more Immortals get produced by Tyler, 3 at a time. Like you said, Chill, a little surprised that there weren't as many Immortals getting produced for Liquid Tylers. That would have definitely allowed him to rip through those Colossi, or excuse me, those Thors a little faster, but ThorZaIN being very smart. He's abusing that strike cannon to do as much damage as he can while stunning any units that are trying to retreat.
Yeah, this is a really difficult situation for Tyler. He wants to delay, but he doesn't have enough time as ThorZaIN continuing to press forward. There go the Immortals right in the front, trying to absorb a lot of damage. Strike cannons going off on the majority of the Immortals. All the Immortals going down immediately. The Colossi also getting targeted by those Vikings. Oh my god, everything falling for Tyler. He's forced to blink away, but looks like it's going to be too little, too late. The gold base going to go down, and there's the GG out of Tyler. A nice strategy by ThorZaIN, and I feel like just not responded to properly by Tyler. I'd be interested to speak with him after this match to know at what point did he know the Thors were coming. I don't know if he just felt like he could deal with them with the Colossus, but it just seems like a really strange choice. Immortals actually don't do all that great when you start going against mass Thors, as they can use the strike cannon to completely isolate them, but they do better than Colossi in my mind, and they're cheaper. So really questionable decision there in my eyes from Tyler.
I'm still wondering, though, what would have been the best decision by Tyler, because we saw how quickly ThorZaIN was able to rip apart those units with the strike cannon. And the Immortals, smaller units, have that shorter range, much easier for the Thors to target. So, I mean, ThorZaIN really just had very, very nice timing on his build. I think the one clear vulnerability is the fact that ThorZaIN only had 2 factories with Tech Lab and 1 with a reactor. So if Tyler was able to start just hurling units out of large numbers of gateways or robos, he could easily lose a battle, reinforce, and then win that battle, and there'd be almost no way that ThorZaIN be able to come back. But either way, Tyler, who went for that mass robotics facility, wasn't quite able to replenish units as quickly as he would have liked.
Yeah, and Bay, I'm thinking through it step by step in my head, and this is kind of the danger when you try to counter units instead of, countering a build, or just soft countering as opposed to hard countering. I know you don't like that term, but when you're trying to say, well, this unit beats this unit, it's really difficult because, stalkers get cut up by the Thors. The strike cannon completely nullifies Immortals and Colossi, as we saw. If you try to switch over to Zealots, Blue Flame Hellion's completely going to chew that up, and ThorZaIN had the +2 armor to completely negate any sort of mass gateway. So it's possible that Tyler may wanted to switch to a more mobile style, a little bit more harassment, maybe even warp prisms to really take that immobility to ThorZaIN, but he kind of committed to that double robotics and got just dealt with very, very nicely by ThorZaIN. So ThorZaIN going to take it 1-0 thus far. Keep in mind that this is a best of 5, so it's going to be a race to 3. We're going to move on to the larger map, very, very much larger map, Terminus RE for game number 2.
Yeah, now Terminus is kind of an interesting map because it's traditionally viewed as the big macro map that everyone's going to be doing long-term plays on. ThorZaIN on against Fruit Dealer did the very fast double command center, so a lot of people anticipate that, generally plan for that. A lot of nexuses on 14, but we saw Tyler abuse a very little small strip of the main plateau that's touching the center of the map, and Tyler uses that to blink up into the main and use Colossi to walk up into the main. So where everyone is trying to do these long-term power plays, Tyler found a small vulnerability that he's known to try to drill a lot of forces into. So that is going to be a pretty significant threat from ThorZaIN. But I think if I'm in Tyler's shoes, there's nothing wrong with doing a long-term macro-oriented play. I'm just questioning whether Tyler has had enough practice against mech styles, because we've seen him just rip Marine Marauder Medevac apart. Just not close games, way out upgrading, out expanding, out macroing the Terran. But we saw a different kind of game last time, so I'm curious to see if Tyler is going to be able to step it up in game 2.
Yeah, I'm also very interested to see how they spawn, because that can dictate how the game is played. If you spawn with your third base close to your opponent, drops become more viable for whoever is closer to that third base. If you spawn cross positions, very, very tempting to throw down that quicker third base. It's going to be a longer rush distance, and you really feel a lot safer throwing down that third base, taking it to a long macro game. So with that being said, I think we're going to jump into game number 2 right after this.